Hello and welcome to the Apache Cassandra Corner, a community-driven podcast for all things Apache Cassandra. The Apache Cassandra Corner is sponsored by DataStax. I am your host, Aaron Pletz. Well, hello everyone, and welcome back to the Apache Cassandra Corner. On today's episode, I'm joined by Dr. Charna Parkey. Charna, it's so great to have you on.
It's so great to be here. I know we've talked about doing an episode for a while, and you finally got me.
I know. It has been a little bit, hasn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, Charna, why don't you just start by telling us a little about yourself?
Well, it's a long story, so we'll try and keep it short. So I have been in some form of AI, machine learning, signal processing for almost 20 years at this point. I know that sounds ridiculous. Formally, like as an engineer, 19 years ago was when I started. But even growing up, like my family was always sort of hands-on kind of folks.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And I wanted to do something different than their kind of hands-on. And so I, explored, and I ended up starting a robotics team, and we were building like AI robots that would like shoot basketballs at the basketball hoops and like compete against other basketball playing robots. That was sort of cool. Like, yeah right. We had this whole chute. We could load up to like 4 basketballs in the chute, and then you'd have to like position it and be like, foo, foo, foo. There's some computer vision stuff in there. So all of that is to say, from a very young age to when I like actually formally became an engineer, I've worked in defense industry on missile systems and UAVs. I've worked in the test and measurement industry on like measuring radios where they're still in the field and telling you like, hey, come on in, it's going out of tune. All the way to like startup tech sector. Did NLP before generative AI became a thing. And then transitioned into infrastructure because I kept hitting the same problems every single time I tried to build an AI application. And I was like,
right.
I need to fix this. So hello, infrastructure companies.
Well, that's awesome. That's awesome. So of course you came to DataStax as a part of the acquisition of Kaskada.
Yeah.
Could you tell us a little bit about that, and maybe what Kaskada is, and just a little about that.
Yeah, so about 3 years before the acquisition, Kaskada had been searching the space, trying to figure out not just what problem could we solve, but for what persona, what problem, what's the right solution. That whole product market fit exercise that startups go through all the time, right? And so we picked data scientists and the traditional ML space at the time. And we saw that there was this, a lot of tools and solutions around static data, but there wasn't a lot of tools that got the data scientists attached to and as close to the source of truth as possible. And
right.
Yeah, there are a lot of issues with that, right? If you only have pre-aggregated data, then you're limited by sort of what the data lets you answer. But more than that was, people talk a lot about bias and how, who they are shouldn't dictate like what their opportunities are and things like that. And essentially using static data instead of behavioral data or event-based data was kind of shoehorning data science into these demographic-based statistics, like how old you are, or are you 25-year-old female and shopping for like baby things. Maybe it's for a baby shower, but Target tells you like, hey, you're pregnant. You're like, I'm really not.
That's funny you mentioned Target. Yeah.
Do you remember that? I don't know. I forgot how old I was, but the card that got mailed.
So I do have to say that being a former Target employee, that there is a lot of study that has gone in to watching and observing like middle-aged women and their path through Target. And
Yeah,
there is a lot of specific like merchandising that happens in various aisles because of that. So I mean, yeah,
absolutely.
you are not wrong. They absolutely are studying that. Yeah. Mhm.
Yeah. Well, and part of the shift between who we are and to this more like, what are we doing? How much time are we spending in the aisles is more of an
Right.
event-based architecture. People started introducing sensors and your GPS location and getting you to scan like barcodes while you're walking down the aisle so that those events and those moments
You're
could be
right.
like,
Yeah. Yeah.
what's your intent here? Like, can we help you get to that goal faster, or can we help you be more creative? Because the experience that you have in a place like Target is more important than like the items on the shelves. The items are
Right.
important, obviously.
Right. I mean, yeah. Oh, yeah. That's why we come to the store.
Right.
But you're right. Yes, absolutely. It's that whole experience. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. That's where Kaskada came from, is we found that event-based data wasn't sort of fully instrumented for data scientists. And
Hmm.
we
Hmm.
wanted to unlock this behavioral ML type of category. And so through the acquisition, when we were looking at like, is DataStax the right company, et cetera, and DataStax was looking at us, is Kaskada the right company? DataStax had the underlying storage of Cassandra, and everyone
Hmm.
is
Right.
storing
Right.
like transactional data and event data. And it was just such a perfect fit that we could together unlock this new category of ML. And then, the generative AI explosion happened. And we
Right. Which is
saw
where we are now.
where we are now. And we were like, but all of these things are still useful, right? We still need an ability
Absolutely.
to
Hmm. Hmm.
store, have memory, compute, transport data. And so Kaskada recently in the last few months, they've been looking into, what are the problems for, instead of data scientists, application developers, and instead of classical machine learning, generative AI. Um,
Right. Right.
and it's a lot of the same problems, but solved in a different way, needs a different solution. And so
Hmm.
our focus right now is to help application engineers to iterate quickly to handle that real-time data, that event-based data, without a bunch of complex infrastructure where you need an entire
Right.
like ops team to stand everything up. And so it's a hard problem. Like if you abstract away the wrong things, then you can't solve your problems. And if you
Right.
don't
Right.
abstract enough, then you need, three teams of experts to solve what you're trying to do. Right. uh
Right. Right.
yeah, so that's the background of Kaskada. And so they've
Okay.
built
Okay.
this new Beep GPT application that's pretty cool, that sort of
Hmm.
illustrates what you can do when you have real-time data as well as a storage system like Cassandra and an LLM, and it can sort of proactively watch Slack for you and then tell you when there's a conversation you should be taking part in. Maybe
Oh,
it's
wow. Yeah.
at a decision making point or whatever. But
Hmm. Hmm.
the application Beep GPT isn't a thing that like, it's open source, people can look at it. It wasn't meant to be like we're going to sell a product. It's like, let's show what's possible when you've got event
Right.
data
Right.
and all of this in line.
And I think that's really important too, because you know not too long ago, I was doing an in-person training. This is probably a couple of months ago now. With one of the bigger big box companies up
Yeah.
here in Minneapolis. Not Target. I won't name them, but
Oh.
but anyway, towards the end of this training, I was showing, hey, here's a little bit of what you can do
Yeah.
with this new feature called vector search. I just introduced it real lightly, and the room was kind of quiet. And then somebody's finally like, what would we use this for? I mean, it was just a really profound question. And the thing is that with a lot of the other meetups that I've done, I see people having this same question of, whoa, the AI, kind of like you said, the generative AI explosion is happening. And it's leaving a lot of people going, wait, what is this? What do we do
Yeah.
with it? So I think, kind of my point there is I think that that's a great idea, that just showing what you can do with it has so much value, because otherwise, a lot of times if you focus too much on the tech and not enough
Yeah.
on how you use it, it's a way to lose people, unfortunately. But
Yeah, absolutely. I think of it as like an emotional barrier to entry. We
yeah.
have like, you look at the lists of all the new tools coming out and all the new projects, and you're like, first fatigue, right? Like
Oh, it's
another
overwhelming.
one. And then, our time is valuable. And if we can't go from like an example, the hello world type thing, but
Right. Right.
more of the art of the possible, like, why do I care? I'm not going to spend my time. I know I don't spend my time on it if there isn't a sample application that I can stand up quickly. Um, it's just, we want to spend more time with the idea that we want to come to life than
hmm
fighting with a lot of the tools.
Right, right. No,
Yeah.
that's a great way to put it. Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. You're right, and that actually does make all of the difference too when you can see something that kind of gives you that spark, kind of gives you that.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, so this is a small example, but it kind of lends itself to other things where now you're going, oh wow, I
Yeah.
could use it for this, or I could use it in this application,
Yeah.
and yeah, yeah, you
Yeah.
could
There's,
you could.
there's this, I forget who said it. I mean, I'm going to say is probably someone like Brene Brown, or someone of that category,
Sure,
um,
sure. No worries.
was saying how, if we want to get pulled out of sort of the mundane, out of depression, out of many other things, we
hmm
need moments of awe. We need to
Right.
feel small. We need to look at the stars, or we need to get lost in the woods, or something where we don't feel as stuck or as big or as whatever. And I think generative AI have done that for a lot of people. Like, they've
Yeah,
gotten
for
the
sure.
first moment of awe in a while from tech.
Right, right. Something else you mentioned, Charna, that has kind of stuck with me too is that you talked about one of the reasons for like the impetus or whatever behind Kaskada was this problem with like static data and trying to run
Yeah.
predictions off of it. And I have to tell you, one of the early recommendation systems that I worked on that was backed by Cassandra. It was a really big Cassandra cluster. And what it would do is it would hold all of this data that was the result of kind of like observing customers online.
Yeah.
Hey, somebody looked at this product. Well, what other products have they looked at? Oh,
Mhm.
they added this to their cart. Well, what other products did they add to their cart? And it would try and aggregate that and make sense of it. In order to do this for this size of a website,
Yeah.
all that data was the result of this gigantic map reduce job in Hadoop. And I'm
Yeah.
not kidding, it ran for like more than 2 days
Yeah.
at a time. And then you would have this data set, and then it would get loaded into Cassandra. Well, I mean, that means that at any given point, the data you're working on is at least 2 days
At
old.
least.
Now
Right.
again, yeah, you're talking about recommendations. Maybe you don't need exactly up-to-date information, but it certainly helps. Yeah, I mean, when you're
It
when you're behind on
depends.
those trends, that makes a difference.
Yeah, like, Walmart, for example, has done a couple of talks on this, and they've moved
hmm
from, massive historical analysis to micro
Right.
intent. And as you are adding things to the cart, they're making a prediction about what you're trying to achieve. So you put plastic cups in the cart. Maybe you're
Right.
having a party, and then you add hot dogs. Well, maybe you're doing an outdoor 4th of July grilling situation. And then you add,
Oh yeah, yeah.
and they're doing that real time. Part of what becomes possible then is we can say, you know, it doesn't matter if Charna is a teenage girl and needing like tampons. It could be like a father shopping for their family, and you put something in the cart like ibuprofen, and you could recommend, like, why not these other products too? You may be trying to get to a specific outcome.
Oh, for
And
sure, for
it
sure.
like unlocks the world. This is
Yeah.
true even more so of like healthcare situations where
hmm hmm
we've often, I don't, there've been a lot of studies about, various pain management techniques for women and things. And like you used to not be able to get certain painkillers for certain things. And then it turns out, people weren't lying about the level of pain that they have. We can attach sensors.
That's interesting. Yeah.
Yeah. There's a whole podcast series about a nurse that was like stealing fentanyl from female patients who were having like hysterectomies, and like over 200 women were affected, and no one believed them that their pain was still there because the nurse gave it to them and it was recorded in the log. But we can change that. We can say, all right, let me monitor your heart rate and your body temperature and these other things that are supposed to be reduced when your pain is reduced, and be like, okay, maybe we gave them the wrong dose, or maybe the dose was missed, or maybe we should give them a different thing. You can believe the data and what's happening in the moment instead of trying to attribute it to a historical, like out of date type of system.
Wow, that is a really profound example right there about how we could use something like this to help people and make their lives, make significant improvements in their lives. That's amazing right there. Yeah.
Yeah, the same is true of mental health. So there were a few studies that came out where, if just the therapist is listening to you, there's this phenomenon that, like, as you build a relationship with your therapist, you want to make them happy. So if they gave you homework, you'll say that you did it. You want their therapy to be working. And so you will often say that you're better than you are. But if you have a chat app, or if you take a survey on the way in and you like answer some questions and you marry those two things together, both the therapeutic setting of the human as well as what you're telling a machine, you can actually say, oh, we're in this phenomenon right now, and this person actually isn't getting better, they're getting worse. And you can catch some of those moments.
Wow, that is pretty crazy. Yeah, I would never have thought of, applying it to that. See, there you go. There's where you were talking about having an awe moment. I'm like, wow, that's pretty cool.
Yeah. Well, that's, I think, why Cassandra's technology is so important, and why we need to make it more accessible to more people. There's always this saying that, you always need sort of like an expert, and you will need a subject matter expert. You need the technology person, and then you need to know like the person who is the doctor, or who is they need to kind of have good communication to make this come to fruition. And it's even more true today, right? We need the Cassandra community to support these workloads, because once something like this takes off, it's going to scale like crazy, right? It's just going to exponentially, like we saw the number of users that hit OpenAI as soon as it was available for ChatGPT, like record breaking, right? And that's the potential.
Wow. Yeah, that's pretty crazy. All right. So Charna, maybe one thing we could finish on would be, how about we discuss like an example AI workload that would benefit from Cassandra and from being able to scale, and something that the folks listening to could kind of relate to.
Yeah, I think one of the best examples, because Instacart has been using Cassandra and working in AI for a long time. They have a series of models that they use, and they're using Cassandra in a couple of different ways. Like if we think about, as the data moves through the system in the journey, like you're trying to buy something on Instacart, there's the data that serves the application, right? So you need to know the catalog, you need to know the stores, all of that's going to be stored in Cassandra because it's serving that real-time application. And then you need to store the transformation of that data. So, there's going to be a prediction for, is this item going to be in stock by the time it's going to be delivered? So there's going to be an item availability model. So there'll be features that may make that true, right? Like restock times, or are we in a pandemic? How many other people are ordering that item right now or searching? Like there's just a lot. So all of that data gets transformed into features, and it gets stored in Cassandra as sort of a feature store.
Oh, sure.
And then you've got the generative component of it, right? So maybe, and I don't know how many people have heard this, but Instacart had released a new chat experience backed by ChatGPT that lets
Oh, I didn't know
you,
that.
yeah, you can actually
Yeah.
say like, I have a cookout and I have peaches. Help me come up with recipes that
Wow.
I could cook. But not just that. So first, before I go into the end of the story, when you do that, you have to vectorize a bunch of things. So
Right.
Cassandra
For sure.
is also a vector database. And so you have to
Vector
vectorize
database. Yes.
the recipes. And could you substitute nectarines for peaches? Like there's just all of the similarity stuff that you need
Sure.
in order to get
Sure.
the right recipe. And then you have to find the stores that are close to this person that have the items that are available. And it
Oh,
can come
right.
from multiple different stores if you need to.
Mm-hmm.
At the price point that they're looking for. Two, when the recipe comes back, just below it, there are a list of items and the recommended stores you should buy them from in
Oh,
order to
wow.
achieve that recipe. And a prediction about whether or not you've got the rest of the items on your shelf already. So you probably already have salt and pepper. You
Oh,
probably
sure.
already
Sure.
have like butter, right? And so it already predicts for you like, hey, and here's what we think you already have. So you don't have to uncheck like 15 different ingredients that are already in your pantry. And so this workload is actually 5, 6, 7 different AI workloads. And
Oh,
it's
wow.
storing, the source data, the event data, the click data, the vector data from the searches, from the items, from the recipes, the feature data for the predictions of the classical ML models, and then finally the output, because you need to learn from this moving forward, right? So you've got
Oh, sure. Sure.
the event store, the feature store, the prediction store. And Cassandra is backing all of that in order to do all of these real-time insertions and reads from the database.
Wow. Yeah, that is quite the use case. Wow. Well, Charna, that was awesome. Hey, it looks like we're out of time. So, let me just say it was so great to finally have you on the show.
Yeah, it's great to be
Yeah,
here.
this has been a very, very interesting conversation. And seriously, I had a bit of an awe moment there. That was great.
Wonderful. Well, if you ever want to talk more about some of the other projects that we're working on, or if you want me to grab someone from the team, I know someone from Kaskada or someone from Langstream would love to chat with you as well on how we're
Oh, that'd
using
be great.
Cassandra.
Yeah, yeah.
Cool.
All right. Well, hey, Charna, thank you again. And we'll talk to everyone later. Bye-bye.
Bye.
And that's all for today. Thank you for listening to the Apache Cassandra Corner. Apache Cassandra is a registered trademark of the Apache Software Foundation. Thank you, and have a great day.